Welcome to the Leaderonomics show. My name is Nigesh, and today we've got a guy who's been in the hospitality industry for 27 years. Ladies and gentlemen, our guest for today, Mr. Abdul Shukoor, CEO of Aurora Hotels International.
Thank you, Nigesh. Happy to be here.
Welcome to the Leaderonomics show.
Thank you.
Right, so 27 years experience. How did it all start? How did you get into this industry?
I got into the industry by Fluke.
By Fluke?
Alright.
Okay.
I was actually an encyclopedia salesman after my O levels.
All right, okay.
I was knocking doors, going from one door to one door, selling encyclopedias for kids. I came across a gentleman who was interested to buy my encyclopedia, and then he sort of said, "You speak very well. Why don't you come and try out a position in Singapore to work for the Grand Hyatt?"
Right.
So I said, "Okay." Those days, Grand Hyatt, that was like one of the mega big properties in Singapore. I said, "Okay, I'll come and see you tomorrow." So there I was. I went to see him, and the next day I was offered a job as a waiter. I used to work as a waiter for 8 hours and as a dishwasher for the rest of the 8 hours.
So really started from ground level.
So I really started myself from the bottom, and I worked myself all the way up for the past 27 years, and that's where I am today.
Wow, okay. And that journey really took you a lot of places, right?
It took me a lot of places. It was fun, it was painful, I enjoyed myself.
All right. So, one thing we found out on your LinkedIn profile, yes, we stalked you, is you keep on saying you're very, very, very passionate of being a well-rounded hotelier. Now, could you share with us why you use those terms and where did that passion come from?
I myself, like what you said, I see myself as a passionate hotelier, and I believe each and every hotelier out there, if you do not have this passion, you do not have this fire in your belly, you are not a hardcore hotelier.
Right.
You need to have this in order to be. It has to be in your vein.
Okay.
It has to be in your DNA.
Right.
It has to be within you itself that you want to meet customers, you want to make the hotel successful, and you want to return the profits to the owner. So this is part of the DNA that you have in yourself. The passion, the drive. It is built in within yourself.
Right.
This is not something that somebody gives it to you.
Right.
It is in yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's a passion that you have inborn that you gotta show. And do you see the response very differently from people when you speak to them as this very passionate individual?
Yes, there is a lot of differences, and there is a lot of, especially when I've worked in many different countries around the world, it gets accepted in various different ways. Sometimes in a positive way, sometimes in a negative way.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll come to that in a short bit, but we sort of want to touch on a bit of your journey, right? You mentioned that you started off in Singapore.
Yes.
Right. At one point, you were the banquet and conference manager at Amara Hotels and Resorts.
Correct.
And at that same time, you were also doing your MBA.
Yes. Like I said just now, I mean, I was not born with a silver spoon.
Right.
So I had to fund my own education.
Right.
I've done wine diplomas, wine degrees. I've done my hospitality management in with American Hotel and Motel Association. Also did my master's degree with Preston University.
Okay.
I did this while I was in two jobs.
Two jobs?
Yes.
Okay,
one
wow.
is when I was with Amara Hotel as the banquet and conference manager.
Right.
And the other part of the master's degree was completed when I was with Mandarin Oriental in Singapore, which is a 5-star luxury brand.
I've been there. I know how that feels like over there. So how did it feel? Like you were juggling two jobs at the same time doing this?
It's not juggling two jobs. I actually changed.
Oh, right. Okay.
I jumped over from Amara over to Mandarin Oriental.
Okay.
So I was doing the MBA with from Amara to Mandarin Oriental.
Right.
So it was a bit difficult. I had to cope with work because working in a hotel, basically you're married to the hotel life.
Right.
You work about 16 hours a day, 17 hours a day. So it was tough for me to complete my MBA, but eventually I did it within 3 to 4 years. I managed to do it.
how did that change your perspective? Because before this, you said you started from the ground level.
Correct.
And then at this point, you were banquet conference manager, and then you did business administration. So
Yes.
how did that shift your perspective about the hotel industry?
Well, I think the master's degree in business administration sort of changed my perspective in terms of general management,
Right.
in terms of my presentation skills, in terms of my financial acumen, in terms of my leadership skills.
Right.
But I don't think so. It changed me a lot from what I was actually doing naturally in the hotel.
Right. So that gave you some additional layers on
Correct.
top of who
Yes.
Mr. Shukoor is.
Yes.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back in a short while with Mr. Abdul Shukoor from Aurora Hotels International. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the Leaderonomics show, and we're here still with Mr. Shukoor,
Yes.
and we're going to find out a bit more, dive a little bit more deeper into your journey.
Absolutely.
All right. So before the break, we were talking about how you started from ground level all the way up to you doing your MBA as well,
Yeah.
while you shifted through from one place to another location. But that shift was not the only one, right? From your accolades, you've been to like Singapore, Russia, Jordan, even Qatar,
Yep.
and all those various places in the hospitality industry. So as you traveled from country to country, how did that change your perspective of the hotel industry?
Well, the perspective of hotel industry always stays, I mean, as it is. I mean, because hospitality is a culture.
Okay.
Wherever you go, it is pretty much the same.
Right.
But it sort of changes my perspective from one place to another in terms of the people
Right.
that we work with
Right.
and the people that we develop,
Right.
because it varies from one country to another country.
Right.
I also saw it as a challenge,
Right.
in the beginning. But eventually, I overcame all these challenges.
Anything you could call out from one of these countries that you've worked at? Like
Well-
say maybe the Singapore, Russia, Jordan, or even Qatar itself.
In Qatar, we have more than 70 nationalities working for us.
7-0.
Yeah,
Wow.
and
okay.
the property that I was managing was like 40 minutes into the desert.
Right.
40 minutes in the desert.
Right.
It takes you 40 minutes drive to get
Okay.
to that location from the
Right.
desert.
Right.
All right, and it faces the Gulf Sea. In this particular location, you have people from all walks of life. You have Nepalis, you have people from Bangladesh, you have people from Nigeria, Ghana. It's not easy for you to call them all together and speak in one tone and in the same way. It's not that easy.
Because they all come from different.
Various different cultures and very different kind of understanding. Sometimes they might get offended with what
Right.
you say.
Okay.
Yeah. So going back to what you asked just now, so it was not very easy, I would say,
Right.
dealing with very different types of nationality, especially in Qatar back then when it was still so-called third world country.
And when was that back then?
I was there in about when I first arrived in Qatar was in 2008.
2008.
Yeah,
okay,
for an interview with
Right.
with the government of Qatar.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you were mentioning about that hotel, was this either Sea Lion or was this the Pearl?
Okay,
Which one is
I
it?
was actually wearing two hats in Qatar.
Oh, okay.
Because I was the corporate director of food and beverage for the Qatar Hospitality,
Okay.
which is government owned.
Right.
Yeah, so I had to look after the food and beverage aspects of the Ritz-Carlton, the Marriotts,
Right.
the Sheratons, and various other properties
Right.
that is under their portfolio.
Right.
All right. And at the same time, I was the general manager of Silan Beach Resort, which is a luxury resort located in the in the desert with 117 keys,
Okay. Keys. What's that?
117 rooms. That's the terminology we
so
use.
The
keys.
name is keys.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, 117 keys.
Right. So you spoke about the people who work there. What
Yes.
about the people who you serve? The people who came to those hotels, those luxury resorts?
Well, Qatar, there's basically there's many royalties in Qatar, and you do get people from Oman coming in. You do get people from Saudi Arabia coming in back then in 2009. So it is difficult for you to meet everybody's expectation.
Right.
And for me, I felt that it was kind of tough in the beginning, but we overcame this fear, and we worked as a team to make sure that every one of them are treated equally, and we sort of overcame the expectations of our customers.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's sort of doing the best possible you can, but you can't please everybody at the same time, right? Okay. So now shifting the hats a little bit, right? You were a hotelier, you were there on the ground, you got your hands dirty, but now with your new role, CEO of Aurora Hotels International, and we are now talking about business intelligence.
Correct.
So is this like a big shift for you, or is this?
It's not really a big shift, because I wouldn't say that this is something that I've not done before. I've done it before in my various different roles, but in my current role, I am more focused in terms of business development for the company itself, setting the strategies and providing strategic leadership for the board of directors and the owners. So that is what I'm doing right now, business intelligence. In terms of driving the brand forward, I'm also assisting in creating the full DNA of the brands that we have, Aurora Suites, Aurora One, and Infinite by Aurora.
Okay. All right, so we're going to come back in a short bit and explore, play a little game with you first, then explore a little bit about your personal opinion. So stay tuned, we'll be back with the Leaderonomics Show. Welcome back to the Leaderonomics Show. We're still here with Mr. Shukoor for the last segment, and before we go into questioning you, we're going to play a little game with you.
Please.
Okay, this is called Thinkonomics.
All right.
We're going to just pick some questions in random. The questions are all here, so you can pick any one.
All right.
We've got this hourglass, right? We'll run the time. This is about a minute. So pick a card, pass it to me. I'll ask you the question and just answer as fast as you can.
All right, shall I start?
Cool. So let's begin.
Any card, right?
Any card. Okay. Come. So the first question is, what's your worst memory about high school?
What's my worst memory about high school? To begin with, I do not have any recollection of my high school.
Okay, next card.
Here you go.
All right. This looks like a long question. Oh my gosh. If you're given $20, how much in percentage would you save? What if you're given 200,000? How much would you save? Would there be any difference in percentage?
Well, in terms of percentage, I don't think so. It makes any difference. But if you give me $200,000, I'll probably save about 50%.
50%. Yeah. So it's 100,000. Okay, we got time for one more question.
Here you go.
All right. Come. So, do you think it's easier to work with people of the same personality or different personalities in a team?
Of course, different personalities. If you want to have solid results at the end of the day.
All right. So different personalities in the team. Yep. Great. And we are out of time. Great. Awesome. Thank you so much for that one. Now we're going to get back to you.
Please.
All right. So coming back to you. I'm pretty sure you faced some challenges.
Absolutely.
Along your 27-year journey. Could you name one which you faced, and how did you overcome that challenge?
The biggest challenge, not only for me, I would say for many other leaders out there, will be letting people go.
Letting people go.
Yeah,
wow.
I would say that this is one of the biggest challenges that I have. But I normally do it in a very friendly manner, very straightforward manner. I probably call the person face to face and tell him right to his face that how you could have done better and what you have done wrong, and wish him successes for the future, and hopefully that he doesn't repeat the same course of action again. I mean, this is what I would probably do.
Right. Yeah. So it's not an easy thing, but
it's not an easy thing.
Trying to ease the way through
correct.
the whole thing. And like going on that tangent, you mentioned about being a leader, right? To you, what is one of those core values of leadership that you practice on an everyday basis?
What are the core values of what I practice on a daily basis? I mean, if I have to shout it loud, it has to be integrity. I mean, that is one major factor. Yeah.
Integrity itself, right? Yes. All right. And one last question for you before we let you go. If there's an advice you'd give to anyone who's watching this show the younger ones, those with the same passion as you have to be a well-rounded hotelier, what would that advice be?
Well, I have many advice, but I'll just give you a short advice. My advice to the young generation of leaders are to go out there and to experience things for themselves, to fail, to get lost, and then to discover themselves. You know, I always believe in this quote by Martin Luther King.
Right.
Some men dream things some men see things as they are and say why. I dream things that never were and say why not. Yeah. So believe in these few words and go out there and explore yourself. Get lost and rediscover yourself.
A new version of yourself.
Yes, this is my advice to the younger generation out there.
Great. Yeah. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Shukoor.
Thank you for having me.
Pleasure having you here.
Thank
Ladies
you.
and gentlemen, that's the Leaderonomics show.